This is Angel's Flight, officially the world's shortest railway. It's a narrow-gauge funicular railway with service that stretches just 298 feet in length, or about one city block, along a steep 33% grade. Operating in downtown Los Angeles' historic Bunker Hill neighborhood, the lower station house is situated on Hill Street, while the upper station house is perched atop Olive Street. Both station houses are original, dating back to the Victorian era, having since been carefully restored and preserved for modern-day use. Although the route of the railway is short, its history sure isn't. It was actually built a few hundred feet away from the present-day site in the first place, here, alongside 3rd Street Tunnel back in 1901. The man behind the project was one Colonel J.W. Eddy, a lawyer, engineer, and friend of President Abraham Lincoln. For over 68 straight years, Angel's Flight would remain a landmark in the heart of downtown LA, seeing over 100 million passengers throughout its first 50 years in operation. But it wasn't until 1969 when Bunker Hill would be targeted by the city of Los Angeles as the site of a sweeping downtown redevelopment project, which replaced some of the city's most architecturally and historically significant structures. In their place, the city built office buildings, public plazas, and a centralized hub for the city's government facilities. As a result, Bunker Hill, along with Angel's Flight, were completely dismantled. The railway's 2 cars, named Sinai and Olivier, were put in storage, while the railway's arch, station houses, drinking fountain, and other artifacts were taken to an outdoor storage yard. This process of tearing down and regrading Bunker Hill for redevelopment wasn't supposed to take long. The city assured Angelenos that Angel's Flight would be back up and running in just 2 years' time by 1971. Unfortunately, due to a mix of endless construction delays, indifferent political will, and a supposed lack in funding, Angel's Flight would stay in storage for not just 2 years, but for the next 27 years. After enough public outcry, the funicular was finally rebuilt and reopened at its new location in 1996. Even though the new Angel's Flight uses the original cars and station houses, a brand new track and haulage system was designed and implemented, although not without controversy. The new tracks have been attributed to quite a few incidents and accidents over the years. Infamously, in 2001, the Sinai car disconnected from the tracks and rolled downhill uncontrollably, violently colliding into the Olivier car near the lower station, resulting in 1 death and several injuries. Angel's Flight was then closed for the next 9 years, reopening in 2010, though both cars were repaired and then placed on an entirely new track system. It closed again in 2013 due to another incident that required extensive reconstruction, before again finally reopening in 2017, where it's continued to operate without incident until today. So with the backstory out of the way, let's ride this thing already. Oh, and if you're new here, this is 4th Place, your place to learn about US geography, urbanism, transportation, and city planning. We'll first enter Angel's Flight at the lower house on Hill Street. One of the first things you'll notice about the 2 cars themselves is just how beautifully they've been restored. The original dark hardwood of the interior is in really nice shape considering it was first built 124 years ago, and spent 27 of those years locked in a closet. The design is simple, yet elegant. They even have historic photos of the railway on the inside of the walls of the car, which is pretty neat too. This ride between the stations is incredibly short, taking just about a minute from start to finish. Here's the whole ride with the sound on. For the final handful of feet, the car grinds to a very slow crawl as it pulls securely into the upper station house. It was built this way to minimize stress on the cable system and make sure the car comes to a controlled and complete stop. Once that happened, we got out and paid our fare at the booth inside the station house. The fare is $1.50 each way, and for $3 you can purchase a souvenir round-trip ticket like I did. Even though Angel's Flight isn't owned or operated by the LA MTA, it does accept amounts loaded onto its tap card. If you choose to pay that way, you'd pay as you would riding the metro, subway, or light rail, with funds loaded into your personal tap card. If you're using a tap card, the one-way fare will only cost you 75 cents. I must have stood up here on Olive Street for a solid 30 minutes watching these things pull in and out of the upper station house. While I was up here, I also got to talking with Angel Flight's lone operator, who told me that while the railway's bright orange and black color scheme may have become iconic over the years, the railway didn't always look this way. When it was first introduced in 1901, both the station houses and the funicular cars were a white cream color, as you can see on these old postcards and photographs from the time period. This changed sometime in the 1930s when they were repainted to their new eye-catching colors, but to this very day, no one knows exactly why that was ever done in the first place. So how exactly does this thing work anyway? Well, as I mentioned earlier, Angel's Flight is a funicular railway, meaning its two cars are connected by a single cable and move in opposite directions. When one goes up, the other comes down. An electric motor at the top inside the upper station pulls the cable using a large drum, and since the cars balance each other, it actually uses very little energy. The system is controlled automatically, but has multiple braking systems to keep it safe. There's no engine on the cars themselves, they only move because the cable being pulled by the motor. It's a simple yet efficient way to move people up and down a steep hill. Funiculars have long made their mark in American transportation history, as they were once a popular solution for moving people and goods up steep hills during a more civilized time. There are records of at least 33 different, now defunct funicular railways that once operated in the US at some point in time. The LA area was home to a few of them actually. Pacific Electric operated the Mount Lowe railway line that operated a section of funicular tracks. San Francisco's defunct Market Street Railway operated a funicular line as a part of its cable car system. Even downtown LA itself was home to another funicular, built 4 years after Angel's Flight, called Court Flight. That funicular operated in Bunker Hill too, but along Court Street, in between Hill and Broadway. Court Street doesn't even exist in downtown anymore, but this is where it would have been, right in the middle of Grand Park. Court Flight was destroyed by a fire in 1943 and never rebuilt. Today, Angel's Flight is only one of 7 funicular railways operating in the US, and the only one left in Los Angeles. It turns out that Angel's Flight is alone in more than one way. It's kinda tragic what happened to Bunker Hill all those years ago. It was once LA's most prestigious residential neighborhood, complete with tree-lined streets, grand Victorian and Queen Anne-style homes, and surrounded by sweeping views of downtown LA. There were gas lamps, gardens, streetcars, and cable cars. It was said to have been a place with a quiet, refined atmosphere, home to a cosmopolitan population. Until, over time, Bunker Hill went the way of most other prominent downtown neighborhoods. A prosperous post-war population moved further and further outwards. Santa Monica, Beverly Hills, even South LA became increasingly popular with LA's post-war families, and thus, DTLA fell into quite a steep decline. So with the homes abandoned and the land dirt cheap, the very ground I'm standing on today was entirely redeveloped. The redevelopment of Bunker Hill was a massive, decades-long urban renewal project that began in the late 40s and accelerated after the area was declared blighted in 1959. From then on, Bunker Hill was completely cleared of its remaining residents through the use of eminent domain. Over 10,000 residents were relocated and nearly every original structure was demolished. All that remains of Victorian-era Bunker Hill are these 2 station houses. The hill was literally regraded. Streets were completely realigned, and a modern, car-centric office district was constructed in its place. What was once LA's most vibrant community was now a soulless product of what corporate America actually once thought was an attractive and sustainable public space. The result? A ghost town on a workday afternoon. To me, the present-day station houses express a sort of melancholy juxtaposition. If these bright orange walls could talk, boy would they be able to say a lot. They witnessed the downfall of one of America's most promising urban cores. One that was slowly chipped away at with every new freeway interchange and dreadfully stale office complex. all of which could have been avoided if only our downtowns remained the lifeblood of our cities, and if LA in particular hadn't quickly fallen in love with the automobile post-World War II. Like my recent trip to LA Union Station, Angel's Flight is yet another relic of a bygone era of the city. Though I am really glad the world's shortest railway still exists here in any fashion at all. Experiencing it is an easy way for other curious Angelinos like myself to try and learn more about a time period so close yet so very far from our own. Remember kids, this is what they took away from us. You know, we actually were a properly functioning city at one point in time. Sadly, I'm not even sure if we're even semi-functioning these days. But oh well, at least we can hop in our time machines every now and again, even if it is for just 60 short seconds. Like I've always said, there's a lot of pre-war beauty in this city, but you might have to work hard to find what's left of it. But I guess these funicular cars can teach us a valuable lesson along those lines. Everything that goes up must eventually come right back down. I'll see you next week from 4th Place.
Over 60 years ago, 150 million passengers ago, Angel's Flight began its first climb upward from the lowlands of Los Angeles to the crest of Bunker Hill. From top to bottom, 300 feet, the world's shortest franchise railway. Price, still a nickel a ride.